We want you to realize that we have a choice in this world that we're in to take issues that are uncomfortable and to make the most important thing, and that's protecting these men and protecting these women who are victims of human trafficking.
That's why I say the most important thing is family. And it's great to be focused on finances and focused on grinding and focused on taking your mountain and getting to the top. But if you're doing it at the expense of your family, like we need to figure that out.
Welcome back to another episode of The Burn. I am Ben Newman, and you know how we do this every single week. We're going to bring you a story of an athlete, an entertainer, a celebrity, an entrepreneur, somebody who shows and has proven that why and purpose is not enough. There's this underlying burn that ignites your why and purpose and causes you to show up on the days you don't feel like it, and especially after you win. Today's very special guest with a very special story, with a very powerful purpose, is Caleb Altmeyer. And before I bring Caleb on, I want to give a big shout out to our dear friend, Eric Rock, who without Eric, we wouldn't be on this Zoom screen. I wouldn't have been able to contribute and to help with the mission that Caleb is serving every single day. And I wouldn't be aware of his powerful story. So this burn episode is probably long overdue, but certainly excited to bring to you the story, the mission, and the purpose of Caleb Altmeyer and helping captives. Caleb, welcome finally to The Burn.
What's up, brother? Happy to be here, man.
Oh, it's great to see you always. And, I want to start by just diving right into it. We're living in a world today where there's just far too many people who have a belief in whatever it is that they're doing, right? Their sales career, it could be their involvement in sports or business, whatever it might be, a charity. And they have a passion. They say they have a belief, but then there's really not much action to prove that they actually believe in it at a high level. You are one of the most relentless, passionate individuals that I've met, because when you talk about helping captives, and before we even get to helping captives, I really want to go back 15 years to where your serving really started. You have been a man of relentless action to serve and make a difference for individuals who are in tough situations where they can't help themselves. Where did the burn come from to do that?
Man, that's a great question. So I think you can always find little burns, like for instance, with this particular project I'm working on now, I find I have this girl's name in my alarm clock, right? This was a trafficking victim that died because we didn't have the 24-hour open access that we are building right now, right? So you find the little burns, but I think the big burn for me, bro, is I grew up in a really awesome Christian home with a mom that's a quadriplegic. And so I was raised by somebody in a wheelchair that was never a victim. And so my whole child, she was a head cheerleader, married my dad. Then 5 months after they got married, they got in a horrible car accident. And they're still together, but I was raised literally by this awesome father that ran a homeless shelter and then a mom that was in a wheelchair. So that my childhood was great, but in high school I got really angry with God, like really angry because my mom can't walk. And I dropped out of school, sold pot, literally was high for like 3 or 4 years straight. And it was almost like my life just got, it was almost like the devil just took my calling away from me, like turned me into the most unrelentless, most pot smoky kid you could ever meet, right? And so at 18 years old, right after I turned 18, I was blessed because I actually had a dream where God came and spoke to me, and he actually called me into ministry. And so that's where that burn comes from, is because I know that I'm called to something bigger and something greater. And I never want to go back to that kid that was unrelentless and didn't have a calling and didn't have any passion. And so I think my ultimate burn comes from just not wanting to be up in heaven at the end of my life and looking back down on earth and saying, man, I had 60 years more to crush it and I didn't do anything with my life. And so when you ask what like the deep, deep burn is, man, it's just wanting to be obedient to the call of God on my life. That's ultimately what it boils down to.
And I see that relentless pursuit to serve not only in your business, but with your family, and just the continued initiatives and the continued fight and how you show up and how you approach things. I even have a favorite moment where when we were down in Puerto Rico, and you've come to our events, and we will talk about it later, but super excited that Helping Captives is actually going to be a big voice of some of the impact that we'll have together, down at our boot camp this year, which is called Big as Texas, down in Dallas in October. But you're just so relentless. And, Tim Tebow is there and he's speaking, and you're like, man, I got to go see Tebow and I got to talk to him. But it's this passion and enthusiasm that I think people are attracted to because of how much you believe in what you do. I want to ask you a question framed differently than maybe how people have asked it, because you know with me, I'm always direct and to the point. You're now dealing with something from charities that you started, whether it was helping people with food and homeless and things of that nature. Now fast forwarding to today, where you have purchased a former strip club, the Deja Vu strip club, and you've now turned it into the headquarters for Helping Captives to stop human trafficking. This is not easy to talk about. These are things that as much as there's a need for it, it's almost like, to me, I'll use the word despicable. It's almost despicable that people want to hide from talking about, like, it's not easy to talk about, but it's there and it's real and it's a major problem. How important has it been for you to just serve with passion around something that is so hard to talk about? Because I can't even imagine the number of people who give you all kinds of excuses why not to talk about it rather than to meet it head on the way that you do. Speak to that problem, because I think part of it is we need people to become more comfortable talking about something that's uncomfortable, because it's a serious problem.
But I think it's just an uncomfortable conversation for people to have, because at the end of the day, 1 out of 3 girls is sexually abused by the time they're 18, and 1 out of 5 boys is sexually abused by the time they're 18. And when I really sit there and think about why does this happen, it takes me back. I think trafficking really starts in the junior high hallway, Ben. I think it starts when you are a young guy and you're going into junior high, and everything in culture is telling you that the most important, like you're going to be popular based on your body count. And then everything in life is trying to get you addicted to porn and trying to get you to almost look at women as objects instead of human beings. And then these young girls, they're going to junior high, and it's like culture's screaming at them that the most important part of them is their body and what they can give a man sexually. And I think it low key kind of impacts the reason there is trafficking, is because there's people that are willing to pay for sex, and that when our culture kind of is just inundated with it. And so it always dives into a deeper conversation. And I don't think a lot of people want to dive into that deeper conversation. And I think that's why sometimes people are just like, I don't know, or it's just, or it's so gross and it's so dark, and it brings up so many emotions that they just don't want to go there, right? And 1 out of 3 women is abused by the time they're 18. Most of us know somebody that's been abused, and so I think it just brings up that emotion. So that's where I think most people just don't want to talk about it. And then for me, I while I was running those charities, I had somebody really near and dear to my life come and share her story with us and share her story with my father. And she was my neighbor, bro. She was trafficked from the time she was 6 by her family. And so when she was 30 something years old, she comes and meets with my father and me. And that really impacted me. Like I said, my mom's in a wheelchair. So you'd always sit on her lap. Like sit on her lap and you cruise around town on the wheelchair. This girl was the first girl that would come over to her house and kind of watch us. And I'd sit behind her and actually like comb her hair. And I never did that with my mom, right? The only time I was behind somebody was when I was wrestling my father, and he didn't smell nearly as good as her, right? So, uh, so she was like the first crush I had. So if you could imagine finding out like the first crush that you ever had was being raped and abused the whole time and you didn't know about it, it really impacted our family. And then my father's my hero. Like he's my hero, man. And I went back to my organization and was just talking about what I had just heard from my neighbor, and I had a staff member start crying. And she told me her story and that she had also been sold and abused, and her dad worked at a prison and sold her to his prison guard buddies. And my dad's a boxer. I see the boxing gloves behind you, and he rides a Harley, and he's kind of, he's a man's man. He has to be to run a shelter for the street. And every time he'd come into the office, she'd always walk into the back room, and I could never understand why. And then she finally started opening up. She was like, just your dad reminds me of the guys that work at a prison, and I'm still getting triggered. She's an adult. And so now I've got two people that I deeply care about, and somebody that's scared of my hero, right? Like she's scared of him. And I remember after about a month, she realized he was safe. And it took her like 10 to 15 minutes just to walk 10 or 15 feet just to give my dad a hug. And she was shaking and trembling in fear because she'd never had like a father's hug before. She was in her mid 20s. And when I saw that, that's when I decided like I need to do something to help. Like there's too many people walking around with this trauma, and they might even be high functioning, but they need help. And so I think when you have someone that was you know what I mean, it became really dear to my heart
Mhm.
because now I got somebody I really care about, and watching her go through her trauma, her brother was murdered, like all this stuff starts making sense. And you got another person that you've been working with for a long time, and she's scared of your dad. Like that's what got me into it.
Are there are there preventive steps? Are there things that you've learned to identify? Because it becomes so common that the victims are scared. They're scared to come forward. They're scared to talk. Is there anything that we can do as not only supporters of helping captives, but really, I hope, especially with this podcast and the support through the event and Eric's event, the Coeur d'Alene Summit that's coming up, and just the voice and the platform that you're speaking and you're sharing. What steps can you share with us to educate us on what to look for or how to help or questions to ask to prevent these things before they get to the point that they get to oftentimes where it's just tragic.
That's a great question, man. And we actually put about half of our attention into prevention and education training now because it is easier to train a family and train a kid on signs to look for and how not to be trafficked than it is to help somebody that's just been raped 5 to 10 times a day. And so the biggest thing, brother, for you as a father is you just need to be in your kids' lives. That is the number one thing. When I interview some of these guys that were traffickers, the number one thing they look for is they're looking for young girls that don't have a healthy home and don't have a dad in their life. Like that was one of the main questions. I think the other thing is just knowing that, you're gonna if there's kids that are all of a sudden they don't have any money, and then all of a sudden they're coming to school and they got new Jordans, they got new iPhones, they got all this new stuff, and then they're telling their friends like they're getting it by going out on dates. Or you see some young girl hanging out with some older guy and it just doesn't make sense, right? Like why is a 14-year-old hanging out with a 25-year-old? Like there's no reason for that to be happening. Like when you start seeing some of those things, and we have an entire training that's an hour long on just grooming and signs to look for on our website. So you can definitely go through that. Um, but I think the biggest thing that I will tell you is grooming. There's lots of different ways that they do it, but there's usually a few things that they're always looking for. And the first thing is they're always trying to build trust, and then they try to isolate. And then once they isolate, they try to numb that person into just the lifestyle of sex. And so those are the three things. And so you have to know who your kids are talking to. I think 80% or more of all grooming happens online now. So knowing who your kids are talking to is the most important thing. You're their parent. You can know who they're talking to on their phone. There's this app called the Bark app, which is an incredible app. So you can see who your kids are talking to and just know. A lot of these guys, I was with a detective one time and he was showing me on Snapchat how he made a fake identity, and he just made it look like he was a 16-year-old kid that played baseball. And then he added a bunch of other 16-year-old guys that were playing baseball. And then all of a sudden he starts adding these girls, and the girls are like, well, this guy's cute. He's got a six pack. and he's friends with all my friends, right? So they're adding him on Snapchat, but they have their notifications on. And if you're on Snapchat, you can see where all your friends are if you have your notifications on. So
Uh,
as soon as adds her, he can see where she's at when she's getting out of school, what part of the house she lives in, all of that. And so I think the biggest thing for us is to make sure that we're in our daughters' lives and that we're spending time with them and that we're actually um, actively engaging with them. You know what I mean? Like that's the number one thing. And just to know that the whole
and if
reason
I
why,
if I could just share it, it's
yeah,
one of the things that I with our daughter Kennedy. I mean, I consistently I want her to know how much we love her, how much we care about her. She never doubts it. She never has to go anywhere to feel love. And even with our son, right? I mean, we want Isaac to know the same. And I think there's parents, and it's sad that they're moving so fast these days, caught up in the wrong things, that we're not slowing down to let our children know that they're protected and they're loved and that they're heard. I mean, some of those things are easy, right? But we make
yeah,
them complex because we just accept that the world is moving fast. And those are simple things we can do as parents, correct?
100%. And that's what I would say is the number one thing, right? So if your kids are wanting to get love and wanting to get attention, um, and it's not coming from you and they don't know what that real love and attention is, they're going to be seeking it out. And you have to understand there's actual people out there that are like combing through Instagram and combing through Facebook and trying to find girls that are wanting attention so they can exploit them. Like that's literally what they do. Um, and so, I mean, even for me, like my good friend, she was 13, her parents got a divorce, and her dad was just drinking and smoking pot and not paying attention to her, and they moved to a motel in the meantime, and she was outside the motel all the time, and there was a 30-some-year-old trafficker just hanging out. She's 13, and he lets her think he cares about her and loves her and takes her out and gives her food, and then all of a sudden says, hey, builds trust with her. Then all of a sudden he starts to isolate. Hey, your dad doesn't really care about you. He's not giving you attention. I'll be there for you. I love you. I care about you. And the next thing he's saying, like, hey, why don't you just come move in with me? I have a beautiful house down in LA. She's 13. She's like, okay, yeah, you're taking better care of me than my dad is. Next thing you know, she's hopping in a car with him. They get to Bend, Oregon, and now he's telling her, like, yeah, I am going to take care of you. And I am going to buy you clothes, but it's not going to be clothes that you want. And I am going to take care of you, but you're going to pay me back by being on the street. And anytime she tries to leave, he beats her and puts her in ice baths, takes her to, gets his name tattooed on her so everybody else knows that she's his property. And all of that could have been avoided if her dad was just paying attention to her and was in her life, knew that she was spending time with this guy. You know what I'm saying? So, um, that's why I say the most important thing is family. And it's great to be focused on finances and focus on grinding and focus on taking your mountain and getting to the top. But if you're doing it at the expense of your family, like we need to figure that out.
See, and these are the reasons why I love how you go about things so loudly, not quietly. And I'd love to finish because I think it was such a courageous, powerful, loud action step. And I mentioned it earlier, but you went and literally bought the former strip club and turned it into your headquarters. I mean, you talk about a
Yeah.
loud statement like, we are shutting you down. We are here, and this is not going to happen in our city. What was that like for you? What was that experience like? How did you come about that decision? Because once again, that's that relentless, loud voice in an uncomfortable issue that I love that you attack with, and I admire, and I think it's just so needed for these types of issues.
Yeah, I think you know how like in the story of David, he first killed a bear and then he killed a lion. So when Goliath showed up, it wasn't a big deal to him. Like I had already done crazy stuff. Like I'd already taken a schoolhouse and turned it into a school and turned it into a big safe house. We've already taken other facilities and done some stuff with it. So when we were looking for a headquarters that could be open 24/7, I needed something that was on a bus line, didn't have a lot of windows, was kind of a protected facility. Honestly, was thinking about just building something, but I wanted to have it in the heart of our city. And the strip club had people have been praying over it for a long time, because this was also a place of like people getting addicted, lots of stories, right? Especially after buying it, I've had so many people come and talk to me and tell me the craziest stories. I went through that club for 40 years. But when it popped up and it was available, to be honest with you, I just kind of pushed it off. Like somebody sent it to me and I didn't even think about it. I was just kind of like, yeah, no, I'll pass. Like it didn't click. And then I was sitting there hanging out with my wife, and like 20 minutes after they sent it to me, it just hit me like over the head. I'm like, wait a second. Maybe God, you're crazy enough to turn a building that was used for objectifying women and use it to actually bring freedom to women coming out of addiction and abuse. And so I went, hit the guy up and said, hey, I'm interested in looking at it. If somebody was already wanting to buy it, because there was other people that wanted to purchase and reopen the club. And I said, hey, if something falls through, let me know. And it was just the perfect square footage, is the perfect location. It was everything that we were looking for. Plus, I think the storyline was just what God wanted to do. You know what I mean? And I felt that deeply. And there was so what we did was, the first night that we purchased it, I actually called all the men in the city together, and we did a men's revival night, and we actually brought sledgehammers and we ripped the stages out. And 30 guys gave their life to Jesus that night. And
Oh, wow.
it was a powerful night. And the reason we did it, brother, is Spokane's actually the city that founded Father's Day. And so the men in our community were like, we don't want to just be, this was our gentleman's club. This was our playhouse. This was our thing that we did. We were like, hey, if you want to make money, come, dance for us and take your clothes off. Right. So now we're going, hey, we want to be known for protecting and healing our women, not just telling them if they want a good, real attention, they need to take their clothes off. So it starts with us. I wasn't always a Christian. I had a crazy past. You know what I mean? So it's it's just being honest about things in my own life and things in our culture that just need to shift, because this is a message that we're sending to, what message are we sending to the young people in our community? What message are we sending to our women? What message are we sending to our moms and our wives? We want to have a different message. And so that's why I went for it. And so right now, yeah, we just finished the demo. And so we're going to continue pushing forward, continue raising money, and turn that thing into our headquarters. What's nice is that we're able to help survivors right now. We have facilities and we have safe house. But when we open this facility up, it's going to allow us to have outpatient work with kids. And it's also probably going to allow us to double the amount of people that we're able to help. So it's a big deal. And then I think it's funny, you were talking about Tim, like somebody just believed in me enough to send me to Puerto Rico, knowing that they're just in faith that I was going to meet Tim, because Tim's whole family has been doing ministry for a long time, and they're now getting into kind of this fight to fight human trafficking. And so what's funny is we're actually going to launch the Freedom Center on October 14th, 26. And guess who's coming out to launch it with me and speak?
Tim.
Yeah.
It's
And that
amazing.
all happened because of faith and showing up to your event. And that would never happen if you didn't have faith and you weren't obedient and you didn't go from, sir, can I please help you with your taxes, to give me your money, sucker. Like that's what like that's you've changed so much, bro. And if any of you guys like crack a joke, but like if you've seen his picture before and you see his picture now, even Ben is evolved. And that's why I said he went from, sir, can I help you with your taxes, to, hey, give me your money, sucker. But that went through a lot of you just being obedient and you being misunderstood and you fighting the good fight. And if you wouldn't have done that, bro, there's no way that I would have been in a room with Tim Tebow with like, what? You know what I mean? You do your summits specifically not to have hundreds of thousands of people there. You do it so
Right.
we can network. And if it
Well,
wasn't for
and
that,
that you nailed it. I mean, that's the purpose of it. That's why when people see our lineups and they say, "Why aren't there thousands of people here?" I don't want thousands of people there,
you
because
could totally get thousands of people, but it's not your mission.
no, I want what you just explained happened with you and Tim Tebow to happen with people to make a difference in the world. And that doesn't happen by the thousands, because you're not going to have a chance to meet him. It happens with the right environment, set up the right way. And I encourage everybody listening a couple of things here. Number one, we're going to make it very, very easy for you to join our family in the support of Caleb and helping captives. And we're going to make it very easy for you to find the website. We're literally going to put it right in the call notes, and you're going to click and you're going to understand what are the action steps that you can take. Even if it's awareness and messaging to join Caleb in his voice, that is better than a silent voice. If you're able to financially make an impact the way that our family continues to do for helping captives, and we will continue to do, please help financially. But his voice is too loud, his voice is too significant, and it's too powerful with all of the individuals like myself, the Eric Rocks, everyone else supporting him, to allow this issue to carry on any further. And it can't be quiet, it has to be loud. And that's why if you want to come to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, to the Coeur d'Alene Summit that Eric Rock is throwing, partnering with Helping Captives, that's one of the main charities that will be supported through that event. Tim Tebow will also be there. Whether it's coming and having the opportunity to meet Emmett Smith, Jesse Itzler, Inky Johnson, Caleb down, where we're going to be supporting Helping Captives at our boot camp in Texas. We're going to leave you links. If the dates don't work for Coeur d'Alene, come see us in Texas. If you want to come to both, come to both. But we want you to realize that we have a choice in this world that we're in to take issues that are uncomfortable and to make the most important thing the most important thing. And that's protecting these men and protecting these women who are victims of human trafficking. And I just encourage you to become loud with your voice when things are important. I'd love to turn it over to you, Caleb, to finish our time together, because I know how passionate you are. I'm going to sign off now and then turn it over to you and let you drop the mic, because I think it's important for people to understand your heart and for you to directly ask for their help. And so just thank you for joining us for the burn. You know, this isn't the first time we've talked about issues like this. This isn't the first time we've talked about controversial issues. We're not here to go about life quietly. We're here to make noise and to take action. And that's why I love and support guys like Caleb Altmeyer. So Caleb, thank you for finally joining us on the burn. I don't do this with many people, but you get the mic. You get to finish the episode. I turn it over to you, my friend.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you guys so much for listening. Here's the deal. For me personally, you're always looking for heroes. And I said that my main hero is my father, but my ultimate hero in life is Jesus. And at the end of the day, when I look at the life of Jesus, it was very unique. He actually, if you grew up and you knew you're the son of God and you were going to have one message to tell the world, you'd probably think about it over and over and over and over, right? He's got 30 years before he launches his message to his community. So I think it's interesting when it's his time to tell everybody. He goes and he gets tempted. He goes and grabs his disciples and he walks back to Nazareth. This is the city that he grew up in. It's his first message. He's going to launch it to the community. And he goes into the temple and he says this. He opens up, of all verses, he opens up to Isaiah and he says, "The Spirit of God is on me. He's anointed me to preach good news to the poor, to bind up the brokenhearted, and to set captives free." That's what Jesus' whole ministry is about. That's what being a Christian is about. That's what being a man of God is about. It's about helping people that need help, and it's about setting captives free. And that's what we're about, and that's what our nation needs about. And I'm going to keep doing that. And if that means that I got to be like Ben and I got to go do crazy workouts to be able to get in front of you, and I got to do so many jumping jacks that my calves have biceps like Ben, I'll do whatever it takes. But we have got to make a difference. We have got to send a different message to our kids. We've got to send a different message to our daughters. And it can't just be that we know you're going through hell, but we're going to turn our head. It's got to be that we are invested, we're willing to change, and we're going to open up a facility that is going to send a message to our entire country that we want to be about helping heal our daughters and our moms and our sisters and not just objectifying them. That has got to change. We've got to tear down some strongholds. We've got to change some things in our own life. We've got to stop being addicted to pornography. We've got a lot of stuff that we need to change as a people individually and as a country. But I honestly think it starts with our kids, and it starts with doing something that's right and not what's easy. And this is what we're going to be doing. And if you want to participate in that, I welcome you. And if you want to come down to Texas and see me try and do Ben's workout unbroken, I'm going to be ready to rock and roll.
We are. Hey, so he just tipped it off. The unrequired workout. We will have some fun pushing Caleb to his limits physically to raise money for helping captives.
Yeah. So salute you, brother. Love you. Looking forward to seeing you in Coeur d'Alene. And dude, honestly, like, I'm just gonna keep it 100. Like before I met you, I had a dream of like just going to the next level and kind of having a facility that would help these ladies. And since meeting you and since being coached and since being we have actually gone from a vision of $1 million to a vision of $10 million,
Mm.
and being the ultimate organization in the nation when it comes to recovery, to take people from heroin and meth all the way to a job, and not just doing emergency care. That's where it starts. But we have a dream and a vision now to literally go from the emergency care all the way to long-term care, all the way to transitional living in a job. And we're going for it hard, bro. And I just want to thank you for calling me up and seeing something in me that I didn't even see in myself. And I think that's what you do for all of us. And that's why we love and appreciate you so much. And it's awesome to have somebody that drives you and believes in you. And that's what you're not just a motivational speaker, brother. You're a coach. And I'm just very thankful that you're in my life and that you're coaching us. And I can't wait to see you.
Oh, God bless you, brother. I appreciate you, and I appreciate your mission and your voice and your courage and your passion and the powerful way you show up in the world. So it goes both ways. Everybody listening, share this episode. Caleb, thank you for joining us. Make sure to hit that link, learn more about helping captives. Do not have a silent voice. Join us in having a voice to make a difference. We'll see you next week for The Burn.